We're standing in the Hermitage Museum in St. Petersburg, Russia, standing before some dessert plates from Her Majesty's private service from the Imperial Porcelain Factory, 1750 to 1760s, with representations of birds painted after F.N. Martinet's works. They're porcelain, cut porcelain with overglaze painting and colored enamels and some gilding set in gold. So what we have here are some images of birds that have been taken from natural history publications or drawings. In the 1750s and 1760s, we find that there is suddenly a really increased interest in realistically representing the natural world. And we find a lot of books that were published at this point in time that have very detailed engravings or drawings of specific species of animals and plants, particularly birds.
Why were they so interested in the natural, representing the natural?
That's an excellent question. Well, what we have in the mid-18th century is the era of the Enlightenment. And during the era of the Enlightenment, there was suddenly a much increased interest in discovering the way that nature worked, because they understood that nature had been designed. They understood God as the watchmaker, the entity that had created the world, set it into motion like a watchmaker creates a watch and sets it into motion and then lets it run. So Enlightenment thinkers didn't think that God had a hand in the everyday events of the world, but rather had created the world and let it go, and to see what would happen, just like a watchmaker would make a watch go. And so the natural world was one way to understand how that watch had been made, and what exactly was going on in its structures. And so in the mid-18th century, we have the rise of the first things that we would understand today as science. What were called philosophers, people who study philosophy, were people who not only study what we consider philosophy today, but all of the different sciences. So people that were interested in biology and chemical properties, physical things that were happening in the world. All of those different theories were combined in, were studied by maybe one person would study all of those things.
Hence the doctorate in philosophy.
Hence the doctorate in philosophy, the PhD.
I've always wondered why
that's where it comes from. Is someone who studies widely to understand how the world works. Mm-hmm. So these drawings or these paintings on the porcelain of birds, where they came from is they were copied from a set of engravings by this Martinet, who would have been a Frenchman. The French were very interested in, were some of the forerunners of these issues of natural philosophy. And there was, in the 18th century, this very close, tight relationship between the Russians and the French. And the Russians were extremely interested, particularly in these issues of natural philosophy. And Catherine the Great, who would be coming to throne soon, she had a 15-year correspondence with one of the major Enlightenment thinkers, Diderot. So there was this very intimate connection between the Russian aristocracy and the French Enlightenment thinkers, a connection which was not embraced quite so fully in 1789 when the French Revolution happened and Catherine the Great realized that she did not want the same kind of ideas to permeate her society and overthrow her. But in the 1750s, 1760s, it's just beginning to have this tight connection between this interest in the natural world coming from the French and invading the Russian aristocratic milieu. So these were probably copied from these engravings of particular birds. The way that the engravings most likely would have been made would have been from dead birds. There was an avid practice of capturing animals in order to stuff them and put them into collections so that one could see the various types of these specimens. They didn't have zoos where they kept the animals alive. They killed them and stuffed them.
So taxidermy was a big profession.
Taxidermy was very important at this point in time. One, because they didn't know how to keep these creatures alive. And so you really wanted to have the specimen at the prime of its existence instead of having it rapidly starving your care, basically. And this is especially true with specimens that were brought back from explorations. I don't think that these are particularly unusual birds from Africa or the Americas. These look like they're probably more European birds, but I honestly don't know for sure that.
But the landscape and the setting doesn't look
exotic. At all. No. But usually these compositions were typically a bird sitting on some sort of appropriate plant matter that would be it would be in its habitat. So the leaves on these individual pieces probably correspond to specific plants. And it kind of situates them in their natural location.